Monday's culture war off the back of the United States men's national team roster coming out. I think, second for the new coach. Some interesting quotes came out from the new top man about dual nationals. What did Poch have to say?
This is something that we talked about, I think last week, right? Dual nationals and the panic, the fever that hits people when it comes to dual nationals. We better send a whole recruiting team. We better fruit baskets. What else can you? Gift certificates. One of those like Visa cards, just loaded up with cash to get these. I don't know if can you do that. Can you? Are there like recruiting violations in international football? Do you get trouble if you like send them cash or buy them a car or something?
Like a college football bag man?
Yeah.
Hey, man, you got to come to the States, bro. It's the best.
Yeah.
We got great frat parties here.
Like an overweight dude in a seersucker suit, sweating too much, offering bags of cash to a 5-star recruit. Like, is it like that? I don't know.
Florian Balogun's recruitment seemed the closest to that, at least publicly.
Yeah. So we talked about dual nationals and whether it's the right thing to do to sort of prioritize their recruitment. This is what Pochettino said after announcing his roster, because it came up in the press conference. If we really believe that a player can help us and can improve us, of course we are going to be 100% involved in that situation. I don't want to give names, but we are working on other players to try to see if they want to be committed to us. Okay. An indication of like, hey, dual nationals, we still got this as a thing. But he goes on to say, we don't need to convince. A player needs to want to play for the national team. I am Argentinian. I wanted to play for Argentina. It's not because of a contract. It's because of the possibility to play in Europe. I was desperate to defend my badge, my flag. We need to be careful. No need to convince a player. One player cannot be more important than the team or 300 million people. And he went on and actually described this. So, again, they have to be desperate, right? If they don't want to play for us, then that is an indictment of the federation. We are a weak federation. We want maybe less talent, but people who will come in and be desperate. So this is very interesting in light of the conversations we had around Greg Berhalter's tenure. Tiago, can I do the show? No? Do you want to say hi real fast since you've interrupted? Vente.
Yeah, we've got a special third guest onto the show here.
This is what happens when you're away from home and you're in your ancillary studio in Puerto Rico. I got this one. Can you say hi? Are you a dual national?
Yeah. Is Tiago going to choose Puerto Rico or the United States when he's in the academy system?
Por Puerto Rico o los Estados Unidos? Puerto Rico o los Estados Unidos? Más alto, por favor.
Estoy en Puerto Rico.
Está en Puerto Rico. Okay. Okay.
So he's going to play for Puerto Rico, eh?
No, he's saying he's in Puerto Rico. He's not processing right now. He's still got his future. When the bags of cash start showing up, Rob, that's when we'll make our decision as a family. You know what I'm saying?
You're media training him well. He made a non-committal answer.
He did make a non-committal answer. I think that's what he was trying to do there. So what I was saying is that this is interesting in light of what we went through with Berhalter, right? Because on a couple levels. One, just the dual national thing, right? Berhalter was very good at recruiting dual nationals. You mentioned Balogun, there's Dest, and so many other players that came in during his period as head coach. Whether he was instrumental in getting them to play for the United States or not, it's kind of hard to know. Every player's choice is their personal choice. Whether they're doing it because, I don't know, it's aspirational to be American, or because there's more monetary benefits down the line, or because they're the other federation that is coming after them, somebody they don't like works there. I think that, there was some question with Dest and relationships with the Dutch national team program, those kind of things. I don't know. But Pochettino is saying, like, let's not bother ourselves getting desperate on our end, needing to convince players, because that shouldn't be what international football is about. And I made this point last week, Rob. I said that the idea should be, I want to play for that country. That's my country. I want to play for them. Now, it's easier for Pochettino to say it well after his playing career was over, and because he's Argentinian. And I think that just we watched that World Cup play out. We think about that team that was around Lionel Messi, and it seemed like their extra, besides having the greatest player on the planet, maybe on the downside of his career, they have that spirit about them. They have that energy, that fight, that they battle to win games. And
desperate to win. Absolutely.
At the end of the Berhalter run, there was this constant conversation, particularly from former U.S. internationals. Shout out to Alexi Lalas and Brad Friedel and many others. DeMarcus Beasley, I think, is on the record with this. Eric Winalda, who I work with, is on the record with this. Our guys didn't care enough. Our guys didn't have that fight, that hey, they didn't go and bleed and just put everything on the line for the badge. So what Pochettino is saying is we need those players. And you might not be as good on paper as a player who doesn't quite have that same mentality about the national team, but we're going to pick that player because we'd rather have somebody who wants to win so desperately, who wants to represent the United States so desperately. And man, I don't know. Is it a little naive on Poch's part?
I don't think so. I think it's good to put an aspirational tone to it and set the bar of what he wants. And I think that's what American fans want. It's want a B level player that's willing to work himself to absolute exhaustion and run through a wall than a handful of A+ players that are, playing within themselves and, playing to, get some minutes in, the who's first to the ball, who's going to get the header, who's going to clean up the dirty stuff. I mean, there's players, you referenced the Argentina team. There's teams that are, players on that squad that are the best players on their club team. And they're willing to be just a functional, workable piece in that national team unit. They will be like the bit part player, the role player for their national team when they might be the star there. And I don't know if there's maybe a couple, but how many guys work themselves to the absolute bone during the Copa America?
Okay. So this phenomenon is fascinating to me. Again, having worked and talked to a lot of guys who were there in sort of the beginning of the revival of the U.S. men's national team program, right? So again, Lalas, Winalda, think about the players from that era, Tab Ramos, think about the players from that era. They were given nothing, including respect, right? They weren't given anything. And those guys, I mean, none of them had the option to play for anybody else. And I'm even talking about a player like Ramos, who has roots in South America, right? Claudio Reyna. Those other countries weren't coming to those players and saying, hey, we want you to play for Argentina or Uruguay or whoever. They were not doing that. Those players had to play for the United States of America, right? Now, I'm not saying that they would have wanted to play for anybody else, but that was their condition. That was their situation. They had one option. They were also playing for a country nobody respected on the international stage. And after the World Cup was given, of course, qualifying for 90 was a big deal. They got routed in Italy. We all know the story of that Italian 90 team. They went and got a very rude awakening of what it was going to be like to play in a World Cup 4 years later when the United States hosted. And what was that all about? Oh, we have to prove that we belong because FIFA may kick us out. They may take the World Cup away from us if we're not good enough to play at this level. And so everything was desperate. Every single day was, I have to work harder. I have to give more because when we hit the stage at the World Cup, we don't want to embarrass ourselves. We want to achieve something in our country. We want to grow soccer. That was the responsibility put on the shoulder of those college-age kids in 90 and 94. You have to carry soccer. These guys aren't carrying soccer anymore, Rob. Their job isn't to help grow the game in the United States of America. Their job, in the case of Christian Pulisic or Tim Weah or Weston McKennie, is to go play for a top-level club team, make a lot of money, and then, the national team calls, it'd be nice. Let's go win. I'm not saying that they even think about it this way. I'm not saying that this is conscious on the part of any of these players. I think Weston McKennie has gone balls to the wall in the past of the U.S. men's national team. I think Christian Pulisic lays everything out there. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of these players go as hard as they possibly can, but maybe there's something missing culturally that we cannot just snap our fingers and make happen. And that's where, and I'll throw up KY's comment here, we're very naive, or that's very naive in the part of Pochettino. We are a middling football nation. We need to go out and get all the best possible players we can, period. Do we have the privilege of being selective if it's a matter of that player will go all out, but that player's more talented? Do we even have that? Is that even smart for us to consider, much less actually enact?
Oh, that's some heavy stuff there, Jason. And I think that the key to really become competitive on the global stages is have an absolute dearth of American talent that was developed here. And so obviously there'll always be some dual nationals or some people from here and there, but you have to have that base. I mean, America, I always like to say American soccer is not small, it's just skinny. You know what I mean? It just doesn't cover a huge wide span. Not every stone is unturned. There's
Yep.
probably thousands of players
But
that
that's
could be there
logist-
that never get turned over, never are fully rooted.
But that's
We
but that's a
don't want to be the ray
logistical
gun
problem.
of international soccer.
No, to point taken, but that is a logistical problem that is incredibly difficult to deal with, right?
But is it being dealt? Is it being dealt with?
But people try for sure, whether they're doing it the right way. This is what frustrates me about the stones that get thrown in the direction of anybody who has any sort of administrative role in American soccer. There are people who are not good at their jobs, right? There are people who are quote unquote incompetent. But the gap between what is actually happening, what people are actually trying to do, what their desires are, and what is possible is massive, right? And then we get into okay, what is not really within the realm of reality, like and figuring out what that is. Like, okay, are we grown out? Are we fully built out as a national team, as a footballing nation, as a football country, soccer country? No, clearly we're not. Clearly we're not even close. That's your point. Right? Is there a way to do that is not just about time? Meaning, is there a way to do that is actively doing something out in American communities when it takes billions of dollars? I'm talking billions of dollars to actually turn over every stone you want to turn over, Rob. Right? Or to give every player in the country the opportunities to become a top-level player that wants to get there. Because we talk about pay to play being a problem. You take the pay to play money out of the system. You've got to replace the money. It can't just continue with no parents paying for fees. It doesn't work that way. Coaches need to be paid. Fields got to be what's got to be paid for as well. We get all flustered over here. They got to be reserved. That was the word I was looking for. Like those things, like how do we do them is the big question in American soccer. But I also think that we don't yet know what American soccer culture is going to be. We know what it is now, and we can see what it was in the past. But the way forward and sort of what it looks like. Okay, I can lay out 18 questions. I don't have them right now, but I can lay out a lot of questions about our moment that will dictate what our national team future looks like on the men's side, right? And we'll maybe talk about the women too. But number one, are our Major League Soccer teams, our USL Championship teams, the teams that want to run academies, are they going to be truly world-class at developing players? Right? Are they going to be truly world? Meaning, as you said, are we going to develop players in this country that can help us actually achieve what we think we're capable of as a soccer nation? Is Major League Soccer going to be a top 5 league in the world at any point in the future? Don't say just no, reactively. Just is Major League, because that will ultimately have a major role to play in whether we can be a World Cup winning country. Now, a country like Argentina can be a World Cup winning country without a top league. But what happens with every single one of their top players? Like almost every single one. You look at the roster for the World Cup. How many Argentina-based players are on that roster?
Next to none, there's probably a handful.
Maybe 2 or 3. Usually a third goalkeeper is playing like a Boca or something like that. That's where that, like, if that, and again, is that going to be our fate as well? It looks like it might be, right? That's the trend of our national team. How many MLS players are in this roster, Rob? Do we even count?
But the thing in the Argentine league, how many of the players playing in the Argentinian domestic league are Argentinian themselves? We're currently, stocking up in a lot of foreign players on the domestic league. Absolutely. And then a lot of our domestic players play overseas. So we don't really
but then that's my point, right? So in order for Major League Soccer to be a major driver of national team success at the level of winning a World Cup, Major League Soccer has to be top 5 in the world. Because what it wants to do, as you're pointing out, is spend money on international players to elevate the level of the league. I'm not going to say artificially because that's what everybody does. But certainly the major jump in quality in Major League Soccer has not been driven by the American player. It's been driven by the international players. And yet the league still wants to be an incubator of domestically grown players. Whether those players play for the United States or not is kind of sometimes a question. But it certainly wants to be that on some level. It wants to be a league that develops players and then sells them on. And if you look at a league like Spain or a league like Italy or a league like Germany, those leagues, all three of them recognized as top leagues in the world, top 5 leagues in the world, all of them do both those things. They bring in international players of a high caliber for Juventus and for AC Milan and for Inter and in Spain for Barcelona and Real Madrid. But they also have a lot of clubs in those leagues who are developing domestic players. And they're still competitive. And the league is still top 5. And so they've got this mix, right? You can have a player, you can have an Italian national team who's playing outside the country, but then you can also, like a Chiesa or somebody, that's not a great example, but somebody like that. And then you could also have, the kid coming through at Napoli who makes the national team. And we're not in a place now where we feel like our national team can mix in MLS players and remain highly competitive. It feels as though, I'm not saying it's always right, because this comes back to that question of, are you bleeding for your badge? Are you playing with everything you've got for your country? Or if this is just kind of a side gig? Right? Pochettino's talking about the dual nationals, but we're talking about a bigger picture thing. Because again, this group, this generation of players was slapped with that label of they don't care enough. They don't care enough. If you were an MLS player coming through with the academy, you're 23, 24 years old, you're playing in Major League Soccer, do you care more? And honestly, if the league is a top 5 league in the world, you're a better player because of that. But also, maybe you don't care as much as somebody who was playing 10 years ago in MLS and thought, I need to play for every ounce of respect I can get, that the national team is my stage to move on. These are all big questions.
Yeah, what can Coach Pochettino do to make it that gritty, inch by inch, take every inch and try to get that respect and whatnot? What would he have to implement to where he's not scaring people off, but he's making people hungry and desperate, like he's saying?
But again, I don't know that this is something that Pochettino can do. I really don't. I mean, he can try to gauge. Right? This is like knowing somebody's brain, right? He can try to gauge who cares most about representing the United States. And I'm not saying that this is not a reason, that this is a reason you shouldn't have hired him. But remember, he's Argentinian. He comes from a very different mindset when it comes to the game in his country, the game he grew up playing, how important it was to become a professional, most likely locally, and then one day go and play for the national team, and how much of an honor that was. What's a bigger honor in Argentinian sports than playing for the Argentine national team? Nothing. And here in this country, we've got 18 other sports that are vying for people's attention. And is it a bigger deal to play for the U.S. men's national team than it is to whatever break through in Major League Baseball, do whatever, go to college on a full ride for basketball or some other sport? I mean, that mix of culture is so different that I think it's really tough to know. We, within our own soccer bubble, have had a history of players who care so much about playing for the national team. But again, they were sort of the counterculture kids, right? And now soccer is still counterculture, but it's different, because now you can dream of playing at Milan like Pulisic or at Juve like McKennie. And I'll take KY's point. Kids growing up here aren't dreaming of one day playing for the USA. Right? When that was the ceiling, when the top level that any American player could aspire to was playing for the national team and maybe playing in a World Cup, that drives that desire to go out and kill yourself for the national team. But when the ceiling has moved or changed, and now it's no longer playing for the national team, that's the top achievement for an American player. Now it's playing at Juventus. Now it's playing at Milan. Now it's playing at Chelsea. Now it's playing at Dortmund. That is going to change the mentality of the players when they come through. The focus is going to be different. And I don't know that we can account for it psychologically, like easily account for it, even if Pochettino is right.
Yeah, big long-term questions here on Morning Kick Around. We'll see what happens long-term, but the next test is November 14th versus Jamaica.
Can I throw in one more note here, Rob?
All right. We're on a roll.
We did start talking dual nationals. This is a bit of news that has broken this morning. Lily Johannes has declared for the United States women's national team. She, of course, born in the States, left at a young age to go play in Holland. She has put out on her Instagram she is picking the U.S. women's national team. So that's good news. It's good news.
Very good news. Hit us up on social media, Kick Around on X and Instagram. And then more importantly than that, hit the subscribe button on the Morning Kick Around YouTube channel. That is the key for progress here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. The longest episode yet of Morning Kick Around. But that means we got heated a little bit there on a couple of those topics. But we will miss you on Wednesday. Safe travels, Mr. Davis.
Yes. Safe. I will be safe. I'll get home. I'll make sure Tiago comes with me because could just leave him here in Puerto Rico. But no, I think I'll take him back with me.
All right. We'll see all you back on Wednesday, you on Friday. Until next time, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.